Onside. 92. Kanagata.
Left inside entering, a lot of familiarity, but they are caution.
Inside Sportcast.
Welcome to yet another episode with Mr. Empire SA. Today I've got someone we normally call CSAs, in the publications and the news bulletins. As a brother that I actually went to the same high school with, and he goes by the name of Usia, also known as Chronic. Welcome, my brother.
Thank you so much, man, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, my brother, for honoring the invite.
Yeah.
Really, really means a lot. And how did you get the name Chronic?
No, that's a name that I made up the name for myself. Or I gave the name to myself. I just liked the meaning of the name.
Yep.
Chronic, something that is everlasting. So it was just a thing of me, believing that my talents,
Yep.
it's just everlasting, and my journey, my purpose on earth, so that was basically it. And I used to write. I enjoyed writing since high school.
Is it?
Yeah. So it's been that, as a writer, creative.
What did you have as your English teacher? Was it
Mr. Hlatshwayo?
Yeah, I know he was good
yeah.
with poetry, with comprehensive writings. So I get where it comes from now.
Yeah. So that's basically where the name came from. Just there's nothing much behind it. Yeah, it's just a name that I stumbled upon.
Yeah,
I liked it. Googled the meaning. I was like, okay, I love the meaning. So yeah.
And I guess it makes sense in terms of when you say it's something that's everlasting, because the stories that you write, they live with us. They are forever there, whether it's on a digital platform or whether it's on a paper platform. It's something that's always there. And why sports management? Why journalism? What got you into that industry?
So it's a passion, Once upon a time, I wanted to go pro. I used to play football.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Like we all did.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But also, it's a passion that I had for football. That's where it all started. I went to TUT. We all know TUT was. I think they still are dominant in the varsity football space. So for me, it was calculated, basically. To say, okay, where can I? How can I get to where I want to get to?
Yes.
And if the odds are stacked against me, how can I have something to fall back on in case, I don't make it, because it happens,
Yeah.
So, I went to TUT, with the vision of saying I want to get into football via TUT because they are good in varsity football and maybe I can get exposure there. However, I need to have something to fall back on, education background, because there's always been that story, growing up, say, of our footballers, who don't have an education background after life after football. They don't know what else to do. So
sports in general.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, let me study and try and push this football thing.
Yeah.
So that's how it all started. Went to TUT, studied journalism, and I played football. However, during the process, I got injured. I remember it was pre-season.
Yep.
Because I was playing SAP. It was pre-season. It was pre-season.
Yep.
That season, it was one of the seasons that I had told myself that this is the one. This is it. However, I got injured. I was out for like almost a year, and then from there onwards, the love, for football died, and just focus on my studies full on, and the rest is history.
And did you play for any professional clubs prior to TUT?
No. Well, I played in the SAP. I played for, what do they call this team? Juventus from...
Juventus.
Yeah, Juventus. They're in Pretoria. forgot. Then I also played for Edu Sports.
Okay.
In
the college.
Yeah,
Yes.
Edu Sport in Siyasanga Monoalibe.
Siyasanga, yes.
That's where everything ended for me.
Yeah.
I did trial for the varsity team. However, I didn't make the team because I used to stay very far. I used to travel from Joburg to Pretoria, so
for
it used to temper with my studies, and I would get home very late, and sometimes I would cut my training sessions short, and the coach didn't like that.
Really
so
like that.
No. You need to choose, Baba.
Yeah.
In or out. So I was like, I have to go out because I'm staying far. However, at the end, I ended up residing in Siyasanga Monoalibe because that's how much I wanted this football thing.
Yeah.
So,
and I know there's quite a number of the talent actually in Pretoria.
Yeah.
The whole from when you take it even back, when you look at your super sports, academy levels, they're doing well. You Mamelodi Sundowns. And there's also a number of academies that side.
For sure, yeah.
And I mean, that's quite fascinating in terms of how now you got into the game.
Yeah.
And how you got also into journalism, a background of playing, understanding the aspects, of the game. Yeah. So in terms of your writing skills, do you then, I think, you have that technical aspect of things from understanding the dynamics of the game?
Yeah.
So do you write from that technical level?
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't only cover football.
Yeah.
I'm a sports journalist. I'm not a football journalist. I cover football, netball, rugby, all these sporting codes. Any sporting code you can think of, I can maneuver in any space as far as sports is concerned. So every sport, has its own jargon, technical or certain terms that you use.
Yep.
I don't know if that answers your question, but I do write from that aspect,
of things.
Yeah, and you need to understand what you're doing. And with me, because I have the passion for sports, it's slightly easier for me to maneuver or move around the space that I'm in.
Yeah. And in terms of, the different sporting codes that you you currently do journalism. So is it more of reporting, or it's basically you chasing stories and, you're writing from, the breaking news on daily? Because we all know, especially in this country, anything happens at any moment. And especially now that we're going into closures of the seasons.
Yeah.
So what is it? Is it more of, do you chase stories, or is it, how is it? Just tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so what people also don't understand, before I answer your question, is that journalists are different. Let me focus on football.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the most followed sports.
Aspect, yeah.
Yeah. So there are journalists who focus solely on transfer news. And there are journalists like us, like me, who focuses on everything.
Yes.
Either transfers, storytelling, or chasing stories, like you said, going on the ground, chasing those stories, telling people stories, feature writing. I do everything. However, transfer news are not my strong point.
Yep.
Because I'm just a writer. I love writing. I love telling people stories.
Yep.
So that's me. That's how I work. I go on the ground sometimes. Just try and tell people stories, because I believe that is my purpose on earth, to inspire and tell people's stories. So I do go on the ground, chase those stories, either political or human interest stories. That's my job. That's my duty.
Yep. So you also, because I know you're also a creative writer as well.
Yeah.
And how does that, what's your role in terms of merging those two worlds, the sports and the creative side of things?
Creative. So I'm sure you probably saw the creative side on my bio.
Yes.
So I call myself a creative journalist as well, because I love fashion. I love style.
Yeah.
I love
I can
dressing
see with
up. with the drip.
With the drip.
Yeah. So I love dressing up, So I classify myself as a creative journalist, because I just love, showing up, looking different from the usual, journalists. So that's where the creative journalist comes from.
If we can look at it and think about it, clubs are slowly adopting that creative aspect.
Yeah.
Into the game now. The fashion houses, your Adidas, Old School currently did, a feature with Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs. It was a beautiful range, So I kind of understand that aspect where it comes from.
Yeah. So that's basically where it comes from. There isn't much into it. It's not like I'm a creative journalist in a way, but I'm creative in that aspect in terms of style, fashion, and just looking different.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in terms of the digital landscape now, because I'm not sure with Sowetan.
Sunday World.
Sunday World.
Sunday World is their name. Yeah.
So with Sunday World, are you guys still doing traditional media in terms of print?
Yeah.
Print.
Yeah, we're still we're still pushing.
Is it?
In that space, there are a few newspaper publications that closed the newspaper side or the print side of things. They're just focusing full on digital.
And what do you think are the disadvantages now of the digital media from post print?
Yeah. So now the world is moving towards that direction, that digital space, because people's attention span is also very short now. People just want to watch, listen. So a lot of people don't have time to read, go to the shops, buy a newspaper, hard copy. And this generation that is coming, they don't have time for that. They are always on their phones,
on the tablets.
Yeah. So that's where the world is moving towards. So everything has its advantages and disadvantages, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I must say, it was quite intriguing to also see that, you've actually even transformed, your mediums in terms of how you roll out your content.
Yeah.
I saw you did an exclusive interview with Andile Jali.
Happy Jelly.
Happy Jelly recently.
Yeah, it was a nice sit-down interview.
Yeah, that was really, really, and you currently did the trophy tour.
Yeah,
for the UEFA
Champions League.
And how was that? Tell us about that.
It was a very nice, fun experience. Getting to see someone that you used to watch on TV, used to like, a legend of the game. Never imagined. I've never ever in my life imagined that I'd be close to Schweinsteiger.
Yeah.
One day, I've never. But here we are. So it was a very nice, profound experience for me, because it also got me thinking as to how far I've come and what the future may or holds for me, because I want to believe that I do have a bright future ahead, but that will be determined by my hard work, just staying disciplined, grounded, just be open to learning from my seniors and even my peers.
Yep.
So it was a very nice experience to be part of.
So in terms of sports management, can you somehow break it to us in terms of young people?
Yeah.
Because I always believe I did multimedia.
Okay.
And from a background of color, going into such mediums or such spaces, it's always a challenge. Trying to convince your parents.
Yeah.
I actually want to study journalism or want to study sports management or media, anything in the media.
Yeah.
So can you just break it down to us? What exactly are some of the key aspects that you learn from the tertiary level?
Yeah. So I studied journalism.
Okay.
I strictly studied journalism. Mm-hmm. So, but because journalism is broad, and because I love sports, I tapped into sports journalism.
Okay.
So how it works, where can I start? You mean like in terms of parents giving advice to kids?
In terms of, so if one would want to pursue
that career.
Yeah. What are some of the things that they would undergo? What are some of the trainings that they would undergo and learn in university or college?
Yeah. Okay, so like I said, it's broad. Journalism is broad. You can get into politics, you can get into lifestyle and entertainment, sports. There's just a whole lot of things that you can get into, you know.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how to answer this question.
No.
But you need to, because for example at TUT, before I got my qualification, I had to do practicals. Yes. I had to undergo.
So the practicals, meaning they would then send you out in the field.
Go to the field, go to the ground, do those interviews, interact with people.
Yes.
And I had to do that internship also, just to get the experience and feel of being in the corporate world or space, you know, just to understand the basics of the job that you want to do or the space that you want to get into.
Yeah.
So that's basically it. And then from there onwards, I mean, when you get into the newsroom, you want to find or get senior guys there who show you the ropes. Like here now for me, I was fortunate enough to land in the hands, you know, of a very good guy, good man.
Okay.
Who showed me the ropes, you know.
Journalist as well.
Yeah, he's a top, he's a legend. He's been in the space for like 20 years plus, you know. So yeah, man, it's there to get the media training as well, just the basics basically. On how to look for a story, how to interact with your sources or cultivate those sources and so forth. So yeah, you get media training when you get in the newsroom. You want to get or find senior guys who are going to teach you the basics, you know, of how to handle yourself and out there.
How is it being in that space of a newsroom? So, for example, you know, doing interviews with a specific club, right? I'll say Chiefs. And
the Nedbank Cup champs.
The Nedbank Cup champs, you know. So, and you know that they possibly give you a certain time and number of questions.
Yeah.
Then how do you know? Do you plan ahead on what exactly you need to ask? Because they send you guys a memo on certain specific players that, you know, they're going to interview.
Be available,
you know. So how does that work in terms of the questioning? What's the thought process on that?
So sometimes you don't really get the memo as to who. Well, in most cases, you don't know who you are going to interview in terms of the players. Maybe, for example, like you said, Chiefs, let's say we're going to the village the following day. And then when you get there, obviously, definitely, you're going to get an opportunity to interview the coach.
Yes.
And then they say and other two players. The two players, we don't know. We only find out when you get there.
Okay.
So, but it's always advisable to go there prepared. You know, you need to go there prepared. You shouldn't be doing anything or going to anything unprepared. You should always be prepared and understand your work, understand the sport and 100%. What is currently happening. So whichever player that they give you, you should know that, okay, what sort of questions you can ask that player. Because you are in tune with everything.
With everything what's happening.
So we go prepared. Well, I usually go prepared. It's advisable to go there prepared. Because you can't just go into a place unprepared and just rely on other people. It's definitely. But it's advisable to go in attending those events prepared. You know what you want to ask, the angle of your story, and that's basically it.
Get from there.
So
when you look at all sporting codes in the country, what's your take in terms of the growth?
You
know, the foundation of it. Do you think South Africa is headed into the right direction?
For sure.
In all spaces. At this current moment.
okay, when you look at
athletics, you look at the rugby,
cricket, football,
football. In general.
We are moving towards the right direction for sure. We recently hosted the Netball World Cup.
Yes.
Our netball team is improving. It's doing very well. Look at our football. Currently, our junior national teams, under 17s, under 20s, qualified for the World Cup.
Yep.
Bafana
And
also on the verge, yes.
And the next AFCON.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bafana on the verge of qualifying for the World Cup as well. Banyana, the defending champions of the WAFCON. They'll be defending it in July.
Yes.
And you look at our athletics recently, the relay teams out in China, they did very well.
Very, very
Double
well.
gold and the bronze.
Yep.
Look at our cricket. They go. The Proteas are going to the final in Lords against Australia.
Yes.
Look at our rugby. We are the defending champions of the world. So we are moving towards the right direction. It's just a matter of us pushing to ensure that we cement our place at the top in all these sporting codes, and just be, because we are very sporting nation.
Yeah,
very
we
sporting
definitely are a
nation.
sporting nation.
So we are in the right direction, and I believe we'll continue pushing and one day dominate.
Yeah.
Sundowns, for instance, going to the Champions League as well. So there's just a whole lot of excitement in our sports at large.
It's definitely being placed on the map.
Yeah.
On even on a global stage.
Yeah.
And it's getting there. And I think there's a number of emerging sports. Recently I just had a interview with Uvuyiswa Domela. She plays a sport called foot golf.
Foot golf, okay.
Which is something new.
Yeah, it was, I think, which country? I think about a month ago.
She did the World Cup, actually.
Yeah.
And she was ranked number 37 in the world. Out of 1,000 competitors in that. So it's evolving.
Yeah.
And I think we are very highly competitive, in that regard. Yeah.
For sure.
So tell me about your best story that you feel like when you wrote it and this was great for you.
Shucks.
Or a story that you think that cemented your career, as a sports journalist.
So I've done a lot. Phew, I can't think of one from the top of my head. Okay, I can, but I can't pinpoint which one exactly. But I've done a lot of good stories. But from the top of my head, I can say the story of Coach Pitso.
Yes.
Going to which team was this in? No. I forgot which team was it.
In the.
But it was somewhere in the Gulf as well.
Is it Qatar?
I think it was.
The Gulf region.
Yeah, I think it was, because Coach Pitso is always in that space.
Yes.
Yeah, broke that story. Kind of launched my career as well.
Oh, great.
I did also quite a number of, also on Coach Pitso, covering their case, their legal battle with Mamelodi Sundowns.
Yes.
I was always in court, covering that court case.
Yep.
I've covered a lot. Also a lot of human interest stories. There's this boy, Siya Shabalala. He's a motor sport athlete,
nice.
Just talking to him, when you write, telling their story.
Yeah.
It's fulfilling.
Do you then, for example, Usiya Shabalala, do you then keep track of their careers?
For sure.
As well?
For sure.
Keep reporting on what's happening.
Yeah, he's a young lad. So you keep track, you keep on following their career, how they're doing, where they are, and what the future holds for them.
Yeah.
So it's a very fulfilling job that I do.
Yeah.
I enjoy it so much.
And you get to travel.
Yeah. I mean, you get, those are the benefits of it. But my main responsibility is to just tell these stories, and be the mouthpiece of the voiceless, educate, entertain along the way, So that's basically it. But I've done a lot of stories.
Groundbreaking stories.
But I can say the Coach Pitso one is the one that
launched.
Like, I can say it kind of launched, because I remember when I did that story, I got a lot of followers on Twitter, or now X,
Yes,
from quite a number of prominent journalists in the country, you know, so that kind of showed the credibility.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, this is a credible guy, you know,
and
you can
now,
rely on this
I
guy.
guess that's where the CSAs came in.
So funny thing about that, it's something that I used to do during the days of Mix It.
Oh, is
For
it?
some, I've done that thing. I used to do that thing a long time ago. CSAs, you know, then write something. You know, it's something that I used to do a long time ago during high school days. But then, for some odd reason, because I'm a creative, I was like, why not bring this thing?
Yeah.
You know, bring it to life again. And
Because I know,
you know,
is it Latuma?
what do they do?
I think they had something similar
Okay.
to that. And seeing it now, you do it, it kind of revived the aspect.
Yeah.
And that's where your credibility comes in.
Yeah.
Because when it's CSAs, I know that's one thing I love about you, is that you don't write stories based on speculation.
Yeah.
You know, it's things that are confirmed, you know, and that's what we need, because we've seen what speculated stories you know, do into our, you know, the sporting world. And people believe what they first see.
Yeah.
You know, and when the actual story comes out, people have already spread it out, you know, in the streets. So it's quite important, you know, to always have, you know, the credible stories on the ground. Yeah.
So coming back to that point, it goes back to the question of, you know, the disadvantages and advantages of the digital and the newspaper and stuff. So the dangers, or the disadvantages and dangers of the digital world is exactly what you just mentioned, that people just write anything on social media, and the audience they just fly with it. You know, and those are the dangers. And in journalism, we call it the people who disseminate that information. We call them citizen journalists. We have a lot of citizen journalists, you know, not only in our country.
All over.
But we have a lot of citizen journalists, people who are not like me, who went to school and studied for journalism and understands the journalism ethics, the do's and don'ts. Because like you said, I don't write on speculation. Everything that I write, I make sure that I verify as much as I can.
Most importantly.
Speak to more than one source. It's important, you know. Can't rely on one source, because should that story be flagged, it goes to ombudsman or the press council. They check those things as to how many sources did you talk to or when you wrote the story. If it's one, then you know you find yourself in trouble. So, but at least if it's more than two sources, then they see, okay, I mean, we have followed the rules, we followed the ethics. So most of the time, we find people like citizen journalists, people on social media, who just, you know, write whatever it is that they see or hear, and people the audience just goes with it, whether it's right or wrong. So those are the dangers of the digital space.
And in terms of Sunday World, how's your team, or how's the sports journalism team? How does it look like? In terms of how would you structure it, in terms of not even hierarchy, but in terms of reporting, and what's the process and how does the team look like?
So I work closely with Khomotso Mokoena. He's my sports editor. So I work very closely with him. Like I said, I landed in his hands when I got to Sunday World. He showed me the ropes and taught me, you know, the way, you know, of doing things in this space, because Sunday World is actually my first big gig, because before I got to Sunday World, I used to volunteer a lot, you know, freelance and stuff, just building my portfolio. And then I got to Sunday World. So I just work closely with Bratzo. I call him Bratzo. He's
your editor.
He's my sports editor. So everything that I do, I liaise with him. It starts with him.
if you could tell us the difference between an editor and a journalist.
A reporter.
A reporter also.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. What's the difference?
So, like I said,
would you differentiate them?
Yeah. So I'm a reporter. Mm-hmm. The difference between Nale Pratso is that my work goes via him.
Okay.
He approves or rejects whatever. He's the one that guides me basically.
Yeah.
He's my line manager.
Okay.
Yeah, he oversees everything that I do. He must know I can't do anything or write a story or go to an event without him knowing or his approval. So we always in constant communication. So I'm below him, he's above me basically. That's basically the difference.
It's looking.
He does the editing of the copy and stuff. So, yeah.
Okay, no, that's great, man. And I think before we started, we're just having a chat about the new trophy. The DSTV.
Oh yes.
And I guess what do you think of the league so far, in terms of how it's looking?
Yeah.
And do you think we are competing amongst the best currently? What's your take in terms of the PST?
In terms of the PSL?
The Betway Premiership, yes.
I mean, the Betway Premiership, it's well, let me say the PSL, it's growing. The brand PSL.
With your experience, being in those, offices, the PSL offices, and just being amongst the different clubs, what's your take?
Yeah, there is growth. Our league, without a shadow of a doubt, it's one of the best in Africa.
On the continent.
Yeah, on the continent. We are growing. Even though the growth is slow, but we are growing. Because, for instance, we still find issues like the ones of Royal AM, clubs selling their statuses, players not being paid and so forth, So, yeah, if we could get rid of that, our league would be, would be on another level. But apart from that, our league is growing.
Yep.
The quality, the brand of football, we see it. Like I said, Sundowns is now in the final of the Champions League. Pirates were in the semis. Stellenbosch, semis of the Confed. Sundowns also going to the Club World Cup.
Yep.
So we are growing. There is growth. We see our coaches, they're also doing well. Coach Hulan was at Widad.
Yes.
Coach Fadlu Simba doing very well there. Coach Pitso, he's the flag bearer, of coaches in our country. So I mean, there's a lot to look at, a lot of positives basically as far as our football is concerned. So there is growth.
It's looking a lot of growth. Yeah, and having worked in different sporting codes and different clubs around all the aspects of sports, do you think the structures in rugby, structures in cricket and soccer, do you think they're similar or they're different?
They're different. They're not the same. They're different in many ways, and you can see that. For example, with rugby is, we've won the World Cup more than once. Our rugby is just up there.
It's up there.
And our football is, we're seeing the change only recently when Coach Hugo took over. We are now pushing, went as far as the semis in the AFCON.
Yes.
And we're now, like I said, on the verge of going to the World Cup. So the structures are not the same. They're not the same.
And do you also think it could be also based on the support? In terms of sponsorship, in terms of corporates, not actually supporting enough, I believe, in terms of our soccer structures. Because when you look at rugby and cricket, the corporate South Africa is playing a huge role, in just making sure that they are financially well structured, and that enables them to actually do a lot. So do you also think that to some certain extent that plays a role in terms of our structures, maybe now with Gaten McKenzie, because I know he's been pushing for corporates to actually start supporting our national team, our football structures.
Well, to a certain extent, you can say that it's sponsorship, corporate, and so forth that is causing that gap. However, also need to look at the people who are in charge or who are heading those respective structures. Look at our as far as football is concerned, our SAFA is there's just a whole lot of things happening there. There's just a whole lot of things. So those things they end up rubbing off to the players or to the quality or the brand of our football. So it's also, we also can't shy away from the fact that you also need to look at the people who are heading our football, let's just say. They also could be the reason, or they actually are
to some
contributing, to some extent contributing to the gap that we see between our football and our rugby and cricket.
Yeah, because you can't have politics and sports under one umbrella. You have to some extent, divide them. And I always believe that SAFA has to divide itself from politics and just be a sporting culture. It was that before, and I believe it could be that and even greater, And man, in terms of your journey, what's your plans for the next? Where do you see Sia going in the next 10, 5, 15 years? Where do you want to take this? Where do you want to expand this to? Look,
I want to go as far as I can go. I won't lie. The aim is to also get into the broadcasting space, be it TV or radio. But that's where I want to see myself ending up, because I feel like I've done quite a lot as far as print is concerned, writing. I feel like I have the basic now. The basic and the foundation has been laid. I'm comfortable in that space. So you obviously want to challenge yourself, move on to another challenge, different challenge, which is broadcasting, being in front of the camera, or behind the mic, speaking on radio. Maybe, who knows, go international as well, We've seen quite a number of South Africans who've jumped from South Africa and went to the UK and so forth. So that is the end goal. To just keep on elevating, going up the ladder, and you don't know what you'll find when you get up there, but the end goal is to continue climbing the ladder and going as high as I can.
And in terms of inspiration, where do you draw your inspiration in terms of a journalist? Are there any journalists internationally or even in continental level that you
I look up to? So mostly I look up to, I've always looked up to the local guys. I won't lie and say I looked up to a lot of international guys. It was mostly the local guys. The Brahomotos, Mkwena, Mahlatsi Mpahleles, the BBKs of this world. So those are the guys that I always looked up to. Also, funny enough, Lorenz, who I ended up working very closely with, very good friend of mine. So those are the guys I looked up to.
Lorenz, when you speak about Lorenz, I was actually one of the first people to actually like when he started his platform. I think it was back in COVID time, or post-COVID. When he started his platform, I was, I think, one of the few guys that tapped into his pages, and he had like a few followers, and just followed his journey, and to see where he is, it's incredible. It's very incredible.
It's a big inspiration to most of us, the younger generation, because he's also set the bar very high.
And I love the fact that he also, would publish a lot of African sports, which is, as South Africans, never knew much what's going on, in the continental level.
Yeah.
And a lot of clubs just to educators. And I think in fair share, I would say that embarked a lot of South Africans to start knowing more about, African football and be interested in CAF football as well. So it's quite important.
Yeah.
It's quite important.
Top guy, that's what.
Yeah. So no, man, that's amazing. That's amazing. And what's your take in terms of, I know Super Sports Schools now has just a platform where, when nowadays we never had such structures.
Yeah.
And
sad, no?
It's very sad. I wish we had those,
Yeah.
And I believe back then at Athlone, we had one of the best soccer teams. When I got there, rugby was on its bar, I think we were one of the best as well.
Definitely.
Soccer, we're untouchable.
Yeah.
And certain other sports. So what's your take in terms of now seeing where, what Motsepe Foundation has done, Super Sports Schools as just as a platform where it's growing? What's your take in terms of that?
So it was said that we didn't get that privilege, but it's good for these kids right now because the aim is to make sure that the next generation do not suffer the same things that we suffered. Or
we crawled so that they can walk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's actually good. It's good for the kids, for the future or the next generation, because we have a lot of talent. We have a lot of talent in this country in many ways. But as far as sports is concerned, Super Sports Schools, for example, it gives platforms or gives a platform to those kids to showcase their talent, and because it goes to the ground, it reaches out to schools that some don't have the means to showcase infrastructure and to showcase their talents.
Yeah.
So Super Sports Schools plays that role to make sure that we show that talent to the world.
Yeah, and I was
so that's the importance basically.
Yeah, and I was quite intrigued because I actually thought it was just rugby, soccer, and it's all codes of sports.
Yeah,
it's which was quite amazing. Yeah, and you're currently nominated for an award.
Yeah, I was nominated for SAFJA, a Young Journalist Award. Fell short on it. However, being nominated, is that alone.
Congrats on that.
Thank you so much. That alone is it boosts you, boosts your morale. It motivates you to keep on pushing and drive yourself towards actually getting the accolade the next time, maybe if you get nominated again. But it was good, man. It showed, it meant a lot to me because it showed that at least I'm doing something. There's something, and people are watching.
Yes.
People see what I'm doing. So it was an honor for me to be part of the nominees. Snetemba Maqonqo.
Yes,
ended up winning it.
And Snetemba is with
Diski Times.
With Diski Times, yes.
Good guy.
Yeah.
Good journalist. He breaks a lot of transfer news.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it was nice. It was nice, and it was an honor for me to be even nominated
amongst.
Yeah.
So, which is I kind of don't want to break your style in terms of journalist.
Yeah.
But what in terms of, because people would ask themselves, okay, where do journalists get the stories?
Oh,
it's
yes,
exclusive.
Yeah.
Do some journalists have sources within the clubs or associates with the clubs? Because you would get a story, from maybe one of the clubs in the PSL, right? So where do you get those sources? Is it associates? Is it people you know?
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Comes from exactly that. Associates, people you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes people from within the club, But then obviously as a journalist, it's your responsibility to make sure that you protect their identity.
Yeah.
You know, you don't disclose where did you get the information from. So yeah, man, there's just a whole lot of things that lead to you finding a story.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes you make calls. You call, for example, maybe a media officer or a spokesperson, and you ask them the questions. Then they end up giving you that story.
Yeah.
Sometimes without them even realizing that exactly. So,
giving out.
But we have sources. We have sources. We cultivate sources, contacts along the way. You know, yeah, because. Go into these spaces, we interact with people, speak and stuff. Then, yeah, we build relationships as well. So that's how we find our stories. We have sources, basically. That's how I'll put it.
Yeah,
we have sources. That's how we get stories through our sources.
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay. And as a football fanatic, what's your 5 greatest footballers?
I thought you were about to say what's your favorite team. I was like, yeah.
No.
I'm a neutral.
I know.
Yeah. So
I know what's your favorite, but I won't disclose.
So what's my 5 favorite footballers?
Footballers of all time.
In no particular order. Definitely Cristiano Ronaldo is there.
Okay.
I
think we already know who's out.
I love Brazil.
Because you can't have them both.
I love Brazil. So Neymar is in there. Ronaldinho.
Oh, greatest.
I have a lot, man. Marcelo. Mostly it's the Brazilian guys. I won't lie. Yeah, it's mostly the Brazilians.
So you like the Brazilian style of play?
Yeah. Because it's closer. It's also closer to our football.
Oh, yes.
South African. Yeah, I mean, it has that finesse, that flair, flamboyance. You know. So yeah, that's why I love Brazilian football so much, because it's the closest thing to our football. Yeah.
And what position do you play?
I played as a centre back.
Or centre back.
I'm the height, you know.
Yeah.
I'm a tall guy, so I'm not that tall, but I have the height, so I played as a centre back. Sometimes on the left as a left back. Sometimes I'll alternate, but mostly my strongest centre back was my position. They used to call me Tower back in high school.
Is it? Yeah.
Remember when Mato was on his peak at Kaizer Chiefs? He used to play as a centre back. They used to call me Tower during those days.
Yeah. And did you guys play the schools tournament?
Yeah, we played. We did play, but didn't go, as far as we wanted to. But yeah, we did.
Because I remember there was a team that actually got closer to the provincial stage where we had to go into the next level. But I just don't remember what happened.
I think nearly team about Tsepo Mofokeng. Yeah, he's also doing well. I think he's now with Venda Academy. Yeah, in the Mutsipo Foundation Championship.
Yeah.
So I think it was their group who were that close.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and we've got quite a number of players who I know the ex Orlando Pirates player, Mpo.
Oh yes,
his ex Athlone.
Oh, okay, I was not aware.
Yeah, Mpo Makoda.
I was not aware.
Yeah, we've got quite a number of, and even when you look at, I just forgot the names, but the team that won 1995 Rugby World Cup. Was it 1995? 5? I think 5, because it was post-apartheid.
Yeah.
Post, Nelson Mandela. Yeah, we had, I think, 2-3 players in that team.
Athlone Boys.
Athlone Boys.
Nice.
Because we used to be also one of the greatest rugby schools.
Yeah.
And then that brings me actually to my next question in terms of school level ready. So you look at schools nowadays, such as your King Edwards, your King David's, your GP Boys, Pacton Boys, amongst the most in the country, that actually prepare clubs for. I know we at the Athlone had Lions. We had a partnership with the Lions Club, where we would actually prepare players for the Lions team. Do you think that structure is very important for sports? Not even just rugby, soccer, but in terms of just all round. Do you think it's important that there's a lot of investment given to schools to actually prepare us to fuel the momentum that we have as a sporting nation currently? What's your take in terms of that?
It's important. Going back to the super sport schools thing, it gives the kids the platform. School sports is key because it's that's where the future is. It's more like the foundation. So it's important to invest in the foundation. Make sure the foundation is strong and solid, so that when you build, you have a strong structure standing. So it's very key to have that support in schools, sports, in all sporting codes, football, rugby, cricket, netball, and so forth. So it's very key in terms of the development and the future of our athletes or sports personnel.
And in terms of journalism, do you think the country is still in need of more young people going into that field?
Definitely.
As journalism as a whole, not even sports.
Definitely. It's important to have people who, like I said, who tell people's stories, because there are a lot of people who don't have the voice, who don't know what to do with their stories. So we need people who be the voice of the voiceless, who tell people's stories. Definitely.
And find like visual ways or creative ways to actually tell those stories.
And we still need.
And I actually like how, I don't know what they would call it, but I actually like how, these days you've got the Vino Snaps of the world that tell the stories, not even in words, but in visuals.
Pictures,
there's a famous picture that he took of Fernando Mkwena while he was still at Sundowns.
The notes.
Where he wrote the note.
The
love letter. That was quite iconic. But that quite revealed just the passion behind, the match and behind Urulani towards his players. And that I believe that's also a way of just storytelling visually. So, if we could find also more ways of into this modern media of just telling those stories. The nice thing is that there's such platforms now. And, I like the fact that you also just want to expand more than just the writing and transform this into, something even greater. Radio is that. And in terms of radio, who do you look up to?
Radio.
Currently.
And funny enough,
because I believe in that space in sports, we still need, we're still short,
Funny enough, I initially my passion was I wanted to move towards radio more than where I am. But how life is, you end up where you never thought you'd end up in. But I ended up loving what I'm doing, like print writing more. But I used to lean towards radio more back in varsity. So the radio guys, I don't know.
I know there's Andile, there's
Robert Marawa,
he's something else.
Robert Marawa, I think he's one guy that I think most of us looked up to. The guys who loved the radio. Like when I grew up, I want to be like that guy.
Rob Mapolo.
I'm into writing now. I'm into print. I love writing. And but like I said earlier, the aim is to try and tap into other spaces as well, radio and television.
No, that's great, man. That's great. So Sunday World, because I know you guys now have a online website.
Yeah.
Where you currently, and how's that going? Do you feel like that world is sustainable in terms of when you compare it to traditional media?
Yeah.
And from a digital marketing perspective, in terms of the clicks, is that, can you measure that success in terms of knowing? Because with traditional media, you could know how many sales.
Yeah, you're gonna
but
get
now with print media, you kind of need to measure the biometrics in terms of how many clicks were they.
Yeah.
What do you think in terms of that aspect?
Well, I mean, the world is moving, like it's moving towards that space, the digital space. We're in that era already, of the digital. Yeah. So now it's all about the numbers. Unfortunately, these days, always have to look at the numbers.
Yeah.
So that also kind of gives us a lot of pressure, because now we need to get stories that we know will give us like hard-hitting stories that are gonna give us good numbers. Then because this is our bread and butter. So yeah, I mean, we're moving towards that direction, or we're in that era.
Yep.
So we just have to adapt
to it.
And you can't say you've how can I put it? You have the roadmap, because it's constantly changing, evolving and so forth. But we're in that era now, and we just have to keep on learning how things are done.
100%.
Evolve and move with time, basically.
Yeah. And in terms of EVR, do you know who we are? Yeah, because I think the last update we had, Gayton did say it's already procured. The money was made available.
Yeah.
It's procured. So do you know if it's, when they say they procured, are they procuring the rights? Are we actually buying the rights to have it here?
Yeah.
And then I know the equipment is currently here. It's now just sitting with Safa, if I'm not mistaken. And that's where the delay is.
Yeah.
And, when I look, a lot of fans are frustrated.
Yeah.
What's happening? What do you know anything in terms of where it's currently sitting?
I'd be lying to you. I'd be lying to the masses if I said I knew. However, it's something that we definitely need. Like you said, people are calling for it, because you see a lot of match officiating errors and so forth.
Yeah.
And like I said, the world is moving towards that direction. You also need to move with time.
And our stadiums, they allow for that type of infrastructure.
Yeah, so the last time we interacted with Victor Combs.
Oh, yes.
He did say...
Where is he?
Well, I mean, he's around, but he's always traveling.
Yep.
Because he's in the structures as well.
Okay.
He's the head of referees, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Ace wasn't it? Ace?
Ace was in the PSL.
Oh, in the PSL.
Yeah, PSL,
okay.
Yeah. So, the last time we spoke to him, he said that people need to be patient because the referees also need to undergo training as well. So it's a process. It's a process. It's not easy, but it has to be done. It has to, because people are calling for it, and we also do see sometimes the glaring match officiating mistakes that happen. I mean, they're also human beings. All make mistakes, so you will find mistakes. And the VAR, I guess, it's meant to make sure it limits those mistakes in our football. So but I'd be lying to you and the people if I said I knew where or how far it is. But
and in terms of women's sport, you cover women's sport as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And where do you see? Are you seeing the growth? And the rise of it currently?
Definitely.
Your travels and the journey so far.
Yeah, there is growth. but the growth is not moving at a pace that it should be moving. Yeah, we see, like I said, Banyana is doing well. They're the defending champions in Africa, and they did it without having a women's league or professional women's league in our country.
Yeah.
But they were able to achieve that feat. We see our netball team, the Spar Proteas, they're doing well as well. Hosted the World Cup recently, the first nation to host a World Cup on African soil. So there is that growth, but it's, in my opinion, it's not moving at a pace it should be moving.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. No, definitely, my brother. No, man, I'm really happy that we have you in the country, I believe your journey is important to the masses in terms of sports, because I believe sports unites the nation. And
definitely.
if we can get information, through your work and your creative writing as well, it's very important. And man, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. The 1 hour didn't feel like an hour. I thought we were gonna go on for longer, But I really do appreciate you inviting me over. Like I said, it shows that at least people see the work that I'm doing.
Yes.
And the little influence that I have, So it's a pleasure. And as a former high school mate, it's nice to be, having this chat.
100%.
I hope the guys at Athlone Boys will, when they watch this, they will find that inspiration and that it's possible
100%
to get to where we are. And but in order for you to get to where you are, you need to be patient. You need to fight for what you want.
Yep.
We need to work hard, be grounded.
Like tigers.
Yeah, definitely, So man, it was a pleasure for me to be here.
Likewise, my brother.